Yeah, so I did go on vacation there. It was my husband's 50th birthday. So we went with, and we met a bunch of friends. My husband is from Australia, and we met a bunch of his Aussie friends. And we stayed in Cadaqués, where this book, they live on the hillside outside of Cadaqués. And one day we met a couple who our Aussie friends knew, and they came down and had lunch with us, and they were doing exactly this. They had left Sydney, Australia, and had moved they've always wanted to live in the hills outside of Spain, or sorry, outside of the Costa, above the Costa Brava, and they bought this beautiful house, and it was just the two of them against the world. And all I could think about was, how could that go wrong? Like there's so many, the isolation and not knowing the language and just the two of you, and you don't have any friends, you don't have any support system. And that's where I got this idea that, it's a uniquely vulnerable place to be. And especially in the book, I have the marriage is very damaged and very broken. And this is supposed to fix everything, but obviously it doesn't. Sydney and Curtis. Sydney is a public defender, was a public defender in New York City, and Curtis had worked for a big property development firm in real estate. And they have been rocked by an infidelity. And this is their drastic move to solve their marital crisis, is to get away from the scene of the crime. This happened in New York City. They were both working very hard, both very wrapped up in their careers, and they feel like, well, if we, this is a huge gesture on the offending party, to say, I choose you. I choose you over everything else, over career, and let's go and build this house and build a winery and have a life together. The two of us, it'll be so idyllic. And really, the theme of this book for me is what is forgivable. There's a lot of layers of things, and I think a lot of things are forgivable in a marriage, in a long marriage, in relationships. There are things that we can say, okay, that I can live with, and then there are things that you're like, absolutely no. So I do a little bit of outlining. I would say I do sort of the major plot points, the turning points, are kind of like the pegs on the wall, and then I write between them. So I know the big things that are going to happen, and then how do I get there in the most interesting way? And the twists to me are so much fun. Like when I went to the dark side, I used to write humor. And then when I went to the dark side, I thought, oh God, I don't know if I can spend all this time, a year of my life immersed in murder and betrayal and cruelty. And it's so fun, like trying to like come up with these plot twists and keep people guessing and keep yourself interested and engaged. And so I really enjoy that part of it. It's all about the isolation, right? This book is about these two people who can communicate in a very limited manner, and so they're truly isolated. And when surprise guests show up, they're so starved for companionship and stimulation. Particularly Sydney, the wife, who is like, I need a friend, Like it's so interesting as I look at people who are retiring or whatever, and they just move to a brand new community, and I'm like, what about your friends? What about your network and your community? Like to me, I really understand how important that is. So I feel like the isolation of them not having that there. They have, characters from the past that keep in touch with them a bit, but even they're a bit embarrassed of how their marriage imploded. Everyone was talking about it. So they're truly on their own. And then this couple breaks down nearby, and they become everything to them. They become their friends, they become their foils. They know more than everyone is than the couple knows. There's a lot there. There's a lot going on between these two. The couple who just appears at their door after their van breaks down are called Curtis and, oh, sorry. Oh my God. Sorry about that. Can I start again?
Oh, please. Yeah.
Okay. The couple who shows up after their van breaks down and they show up at the door in need of help and charging their cell phones are Bianca and Damien. And they're a couple of Aussie backpackers doing the van life thing. and they're very attractive, they're very fun, they're very charming. And, Sydney and Curtis are desperate well, not Curtis so much, Sydney is desperate for connection and stimulation and wants to talk and have friends again. And these two fit the bill. They're also helping out around the place. They're building this house, they're building a winery. These two seem to know how to do all these things. But are they who they say they are? And is there another reason that they have stumbled upon these two?